We want to examine the elements of a rich zip code and a poor zip code in Louisiana. The rich zip code is home to 177 separate industries. It produces $5.3 billion in economic activity each year, higher than the GDP of 40 countries. Now, I want to remind you, I'm not talking about a state, I'm not talking about a region, I'm talking about a zip code. It generates $3.9 billion in business profits per year, the highest in Louisiana. And it accounts for $12 billion in exports per year. One zip code. Now let's look at the poor zip code. 38.1% of residents live in poverty. Median household income of $21,000. Highest unemployment rate, highest murder rate, the second highest incarceration rate, and the lowest life expectancy in East Baton Rouge Parish. And you know what's the Louisiana paradox? Guess what? This is the same zip code, 70805. Ladies and gentlemen, we can no longer pretend this is the best form of economic development.
As Edgar has joked in the past, we're just normal people presenting this information. We're just average citizens.
That's an upgrade for me to be called normal and average. Just want you to know, but thank you very much. I really appreciate the compliment.
You're welcome. I think there's one thing that we can agree on as citizens of Louisiana. Things are not great. We feel like we are a very poor state. But I'm going to tell you about how we are an extremely rich state. Louisiana is home to extraordinary wealth. Louisiana ranks number 2 in the nation in crude oil refining. It's a quarter of the refining within the entire nation. Louisiana ranks number 4 in the nation in natural gas production. We rank number 3 in the nation in chemical production. Louisiana is a top 10 oil producing state. Louisiana forms the heart of the nation's pipeline system. This is how natural gas and other different important resources are moving around the country. We are so central to these processing and moving of natural gas. The world price for natural gas is set in Erath, Louisiana at Henry Hub. Erath, Louisiana. We could be considered the Silicon Valley of petrochemicals. We are also the center of the nation's inland waterway system, number 1 in the nation in port tonnage. We have 5 of the 15 top ports in our state. We rank number 1 in the nation in salt production. Almost all of Louisiana is a salt deposit. We rank number 2 in the nation in sugar production, number 3 in the nation in rice production, and Louisiana has ranked number 1 or number 2 in foreign direct investment every single year since 2008. That means that more money is coming from around the world through Louisiana than almost anywhere else in the country.
Now let's see how others are favoring. Infant mortality, Louisiana ranks 46, 49th for poverty, 47th for household income, 47th for food insecurity, 50th in income gap by gender, 47th for property crimes, 46th for violent crimes, 48th for reading scores. Louisiana ranks 49th for math scores and 48th for life expectancy. U.S. News and World Report commissions an analysis every year using 75 different indicators. Let's see if we can find Louisiana. We can scroll down. It's not 10th, it's not 20th, it's not 30th. We are 50th, dead last in the country.
So we've heard about the wealth of natural resources that we have in our state. And we've also heard about what we already know, that we are bottom of the list in all the important categories when it comes to life indicators. If Louisiana is so rich, why is it that we are so poor? So we typically take it for granted that economic prosperity means individual, family, community prosperity. But how is that? What is the connection? It should be coming from 2 main vehicles: wages to family, as well as public goods funded by taxes. I'm talking about schools, libraries, the police, fire departments, infrastructure, things of that nature. So what would happen if one of those went away? What if, even worse, the money that should be going into those public goods is instead going the opposite direction? Is there something that we're doing differently in Louisiana? Is something unique happening here that's not happening across the country? Let's take a look. This is a graph of all the corporate subsidies per capita for every state. All the way to the left, there's a dotted line, and that's the national average. Then, if you could squint your eyes, you could see our neighbors in Texas, and I'm sure you'll be able to see it. There's Louisiana, the big red line. We are spending $2,857 per capita in corporate subsidies. And about 80% of that is going to the industrial tax exemption program. The difference is not that Louisiana has tax exemptions. This is happening across the country. The difference is how we're doing them. Louisiana is the only state in the nation that is giving a state-level board the authority to grant tax exemptions for local entities' property taxes.
I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Commerce and Industry.
So the dollars that should be going to the Metro Council, to the school board, to the police, it's a state-level board made up of people across Louisiana going into a boardroom and saying yes or no.
Is there anyone that would like to hear the details of all of these?
Turns out that is a very big deal.
All in favor of approving these in globo? All opposed with a nay? Motion carries.
It's really easy to give away other people's money. Here's a chart of all the requests in the last 20 years. The little tiny line is who's been rejected. The approval rate has been 99.95%. There's been no cost-benefit analysis done in 82 years.
Do they include the return on investment statement that is supposed to be part of these according to the rules? Where? Because I looked through and then I could not find it.
So they're rubber stamping these, and they're not going to look and see, okay, what are we gaining from these? Is there jobs? Are we benefiting as a community from this investment? We don't even know because we haven't even looked. ITEP is extremely expensive. I think we can all remember the drama of the film tax exemption program just a few years ago. This program costs 10 times more than the film tax credits. Just in 2017, $1.9 billion, billion with a B, was lost in revenue to local taxing bodies. $720 million was lost to Louisiana schools, 20% of their state and local funding. That's just in 1 year.
We're using ExxonMobil as an example, but I want to make clear, ExxonMobil or any other company is not doing anything that's illegal or wrong. They're doing things that are allowed. So I don't want you to walk here to saying that Exxon, they just did this. No, it's their fiduciary responsibility to minimize the cost to their industry. It's not on them, it's on us and our lawmakers to change it. We have allowed this to happen. Now, ExxonMobil has 4 major U.S. oil refineries. Let's look at the Baton Rouge and Baytown facilities. They're Exxon's largest. Baytown refines 561,000 barrels of oil a day, about 32% of the total U.S. production. Baton Rouge refines 503,000 barrels of oil a day, 29%. The property values at each refinery is also similar. Baytown is valued at $2.8 billion, while Baton Rouge is valued at $2.2 billion. In Baytown, Exxon's taxable property is $2.5 billion, with 9% of its property value exempt. In Baton Rouge, the taxable property is $711 million. 67% of the total property value is exempt. Similar size, similar production, same company, different outcomes. How does this affect our local tax base? Baytown collects $48 million from Exxon each year. While East Baton Rouge only pays $10 million, $21 million East Baton Rouge is giving up. That's enough to give each school employee a $3,800 raise. And that's just one refinery. And it's one of 4 Exxon Mobils in East Baton Rouge, one of 59 industrial facilities receiving ITEP exemption in East Baton Rouge, and one of 897 plants receiving ITEP exemptions across the state.
So we want to look at this statewide. We're going to look at a few of the largest of those 897 plants. First off, we have BASF in Ascension Parish. The red line is the section that they are not paying taxes on, and the green is what they are liable for. So at BASF, 73% of their property value is off the rolls. Also in Ascension Parish, we have Methanex. 99% is off the rolls. I don't think you can even see the little green sliver that they're paying taxes on. That is $7.5 million, or 1% of their total property value. In Caddo Parish, we have Calumet, 89% off the rolls, which is $502 million. In Cameron Parish, they have 2 multi-billion-dollar entities. Cameron LNG is worth $11.7 billion, and they are exempt from 99.99% of that. The New World Trade Center in New York is one of the most massive projects in the world, and that is $3.5 billion. So this alone is worth 4 times more than that, and they are paying a fraction of a percent. Also in Cameron Parish is an even larger facility, $12.8 billion, and once again, they are exempt from 98.9% of that. We have Calcasieu Parish with Westlake Chemical, 77% off the rolls. In Iberville with Shintech, 98.6 off the rolls. That's $1.84 billion. In Orleans Parish, we have Folgers. They are 69% off the rolls. In St. Bernard Parish with Chalmette Refining, 74% off the rolls. In Rapides Parish, Procter & Gamble, we've all heard of them, 70% off the rolls. West Baton Rouge with Dow, 95% off the rolls. In St. John the Baptist Parish, 88% off the rolls. This is another multi-billion-dollar facility. Then in St. Charles Parish, 91%, another multi-billion-dollar. East Baton Rouge Parish, we brought it back. Georgia Pacific, 67% off the rolls. ExxonMobil, which we already looked at, $1.45 billion off the rolls. So across the state, between 66 and 99% of industrial property is perpetually exempted from property taxes. That means none of these companies across the state who are getting this program are paying on any more than a third of their property. So local governments, they stand on 3 legs. Sales taxes, we're all very familiar with those. State and federal funds, and property taxes. When all of these corporations are exempted from their property taxes, we're chopping off a major portion of one of those legs. And without that, we are left massively unstable.
If the property tax leg of the stool that you just saw had not been cut by the state board, we would, in East Baton Rouge Parish, collect an additional $70 million per year. $42 million lost to police, fire, roads, parks, libraries, health, and others. $28 million per year to public schools. That would be enough to give every teacher a raise of $9,000 or fully fund universal pre-K. In June of 2016, Governor Edwards, because of our research and involvement, signed an executive order giving local taxing entities a voice in granting exemptions. For the first time in 82 years, we have the opportunity to change things. But you know, that executive order is meaningless, and it won't do anything unless we get involved and unless we make sure it happens.